Welcome to Sakshi TV Special Immigration Talk Show with lawyer Dr. Srinivas Kaveti. Please note that Sakshi TV now has 5 immigration shows every week. On Mondays with Somireddy Garu, on Tuesdays with Kaveti Garu, on Wednesdays with Prashanti Reddy, on Thursdays with Chand Paratneni, and on Fridays with Banu Nindra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you are an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call us at 8667257441. Before we begin the show, please note that this show is only for educational purposes. So if you have any doubts, you can definitely contact to www.kavetilawfirm.com site. So without any further delay, let us welcome Dr. Srinivas Kaveti Garu onto our show. Kaveti Garu, welcome back, Andy. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing well, Shivani. Thanks. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you so much, Kaveti Garu, for tuning in. After your viral sensation of, the amazing videos that you were doing about the labor trafficking that was happening last month, today we decided that we will skip that and get into something very similar to it, not the same, but again, very similar, which is the H1B frauds. So, Kaveti Garu, you tell us, Andy, what are these H1B frauds? Let's just get into the basic introduction and I'll ask you some FAQs that are very popular.
Yeah, the first and foremost for now, which is more prominent, is multiple registration is one of the H1B frauds. Now, before it was like, giving, fake job offers, misrepresentation of jobs, duties, and underpayment also is one of the things. And prominent is bench staffing. That means, they keep you on a bench and they don't pay you a salary. That's very common actually. Well, you're not working, so we'll not pay you. But that's H1B fraud too, because the immigration and department regulation says, even if you're on a bench, you have to pay. And the other most important these days, what we are seeing is, the companies, they make shell companies. Let's say a promoter has a company in one location, they will register a few more companies. These are all shell companies, and they're non-operational just for the sake of getting an H1s or filing, registration, etc. Those are shell companies. And, sometimes people, have other jobs and they'll bring you on an H1B, but you're working on some other jobs. Because lately we have seen it, that people bring students on student visa, they're making them to do gardening, plumbing, carpentry, or cleaning the cars, cleaning the house, kitchen, Atlantic. And sometimes even office work, clerical work. So these are, they're bringing on H1s and getting them to do non-related IT jobs.
Yes.
And most of the other things are, and a scary thing is, they bring people on fake jobs and even fake credentials and even work experience that is all fake from overseas. So these are mostly prevalent of H1B frauds. And
Yes.
now the immigration has seen the light is filing multiple registrations. And let's say if the company has an owner, he incorporates other companies, shell companies, and they will, without the consent or knowledge of the employees, they will file multiple applications just to get picked up. So that's another H1B. Now it's prevalent H1B visa fraud, and immigration is investigating on that.
Yes. So, Kaveti Garu, can you tell us what are some common fraudulent practices that are involving the Indian immigrants, especially? You yourself are an international lawyer, so especially let's talk about the area in USA. What are something that you have noticed, especially in the past couple of years?
See, the first thing is, the problem is, let's start from the students and we'll go up till employees. The first and foremost thing is, these IT companies or these companies, they give basically fake job offers. There's no job, but they'll say, oh, we have a job in the office. And, these guys are working outside. And not many employers would like it, what I'm going to say, but these boys and girls will be working outside for a cash, let's say in a restaurant, and they will pay the money to the employer and these guys will run the payroll. This is the biggest fraudulent practice, what's happening. That's like a, very big thing. So that's one thing. And number two, these employers, they'll say, okay, we will file your H1Bs, and they will say, okay, give us money for the attorney fees and government fees and everything. In fact, the law says that, they cannot charge. The employer cannot charge. Sometimes employers can charge, but they have to reimburse it when they come and start the work. And as some companies have a policy, they say, okay, you make a deposit, you come and work for us, we'll pay you the deposit back. Sometimes that deposit can be used for these expenses. Atla. And sometimes underpayment. Let's say you're working in California and New York, but California and New York has higher wage rates, but you're sitting and working from home in Pennsylvania. Every state you work, the government, the companies have to take labor certification. And the other most important thing is once they take an LCA, they have to provide the LCA copy to the employee. They don't give it adhokati. And the other thing is, the companies also, if you see in America, most of these guys who are coming to America, students, Yagani, and even the H1B guys, they will use the local green card holders or citizens' credentials, and they're basically running a company. Yesterday, one priest came to my office, and they said he's a priest, but somebody used his credentials and running a company. And this guy doesn't even know, and he's doing business in multiple states. So this guy doesn't even know that this guy is running business in multiple states, and the guy who's running is on an H1B. And sometimes even students are doing that. So this is another thing, fraudulent things what they're doing. And the other thing is, you know, especially when they're doing CPTs and OPTs, the students are not going to schools, but they're picking up jobs full time, and the companies don't pay payroll. They'll say, "Oh, you do two jobs, I'll pay you money overseas." So that's a money laundering. I mean, that's another serious offense. What these companies are doing. Ivanni Koda, I mean, these are all very serious offenses. These are felonies, actually. And now the immigration is getting to know all of this. So what they will do, I mean, they will do site visits, audits, chestar. These are all the problems. And it's going to be a serious thing in America because if you see in the past, there was a big, they were doing auditing. A lot of employees got arrested in 2015, 19. Every 2, 3 years, they do a lot of this audits, And when they do audits and site visits, they get to know all these things. So it's a very serious thing, and sometimes they even make fake client letters. Sometimes they'll create a fake emails for the managers. Sometimes fake phone numbers. And the other thing is even the resumes. They fabricate the resumes. Somebody else is answering your calls. It's a proxy, they say. And sometimes even the jobs are being handled from overseas. Once they get a job, and somebody is working from overseas, and this is misrepresentation, and you're asking somebody else to work from other country. This is also infringement of privacy, and you're disseminating the information from US. So these are all felony serious offenses.
Yes. And also, Kaveti Garu, first you wanted to understand how do these kind of fraudulence, operate. So, I mean, there might be a specific pattern that, some people might be following to operate these kind of H1B frauds. So, you as a lawyer, what kind of, operations or methods have you kind of seen in these kind of cases?
See, the first and foremost thing is I cannot just blame only employers. I will also blame employees because it takes two hands to clap. So employers, they do. Employees are also aware. They're also desperate, and sometimes some of the employees don't know, and sometimes the employees will say, "No, we don't want to go through the unfair trade practices," and they leave that employer and go and join somebody else. But overall, when you see, because there's so much of demand and supply again, there's so many students in the country every year these days after post COVID. 120,000 students are coming, the visas are being given, and the H1s are not there because it's only for master's quota, only 20 and regular 40. This has to be distributed for all over the world. How can you accommodate all these people in the country? And if you see now, the statistics says that all these people are coming into the country on a student visa. For them to get a green card, it will take 50 to 60 years. So how will they get them? Will they get them? No. So, I mean, there's nothing like Australia or England or Canada. You can apply under the highly skilled category green card processing in Canada, New Zealand, Australia. But there's nothing like that in US, where everybody has to go through the employer sponsoring labor certification, I-140, and then they have to wait for the visa availability to adjust their status. They're taking 20 years, 25, 30 years, 50 years, 40 years now. So it's a long wait. So people, what they're doing all the unlawful things to get there. So, this is happening now. And I mean, these frauds get detected by the immigration and by the Department of Labor. So one has to be careful. The employees have to be careful. Employers have to be careful. And you cannot say, oh, I don't know the law. Ignorance of law is not excuse. And employers have a more onus because they being a US employer, they're e-verified. And that means that they're verified by the immigration. And they have to follow certain labor laws. They have to follow the tax laws. They have to follow immigration laws. There are a whole heap of human rights laws, corporate laws. There are a whole heap of criminal laws they have to follow. There's an onus on the employer, I would say. And most of them, they don't, because for running a company, you need a corporate lawyer. You need an immigration lawyer. You need a lawyer with a department of, labor law. And you need a tax lawyer who can, CPA. So you need all these professionals. But what happens, all these desi companies, just to cut the corners, they don't approach attorneys. I would give you a small example. There's an employment contract between the employer and employee. And the company would be in Florida, and the employee contract will say the guy will be sitting in, let's say, New Jersey employee. The contract will say that the law of Texas will apply. There's no relationship. So they don't approach an attorney. They don't do anything, things like that. So there are so many things cutting the corners by the employers. And I guess they have to comply the law now, and they have to do all the compliance. And, even the employees have to comply the law strictly so that, they will have a smooth, ride in this country.
Yes. I also kind of wanted to understand, Kaveti Garu, so what kind of legal consequences can people will be bearing if they are caught in this act?
Oh, big time, Shivani. First and foremost is it's immigration law is an administrative law. They have penalties, huge penalties for the employers and employees also. And the second thing is because there are certain provisions in immigration law, there are criminal penalties also. There have been cases in the past. There were some Indians and Deshis. They've gone to jail. They've been imprisoned, employers. And there have been cases that even employees have been imprisoned. They will go to jail. Means there's a criminal offenses there. And once they go through the criminal penalties, incarceration and going to jail and serving the sentence, the immigration will pick you up and they will put you in a detention center and they will deport you. That's another thing. First is penalties, financial penalties, and two is criminal punishments, and third is immigration violation. They will terminate your visa. They'll put you in an immigration detention center and they will deport you. Deportation is an international crime. So that's a sad thing because once you're deported from US, 5 countries, they have a 5 tripartite contract. They will share the immigration information. They will get to know that you've violated the law. You've been imprisoned in America. So they don't give it to you. So, things like that. And, not only just, and if you're a company owner or if you're a company, they will blacklist the company. If you have H1s on that company, they will revoke all the H1s. If any green cards are getting processed, their green cards processing will be stalled. And many times they'll put a bar on the employer, and the company that they cannot sponsor anymore up in the future. So it's a serious thing, Shivani, the punishments in this country. And unfortunately, in this country, the statute of limitation for a crime, 20, 30 years. If you see in this country, people get imprisoned even after 15, 20 years. They can dig what you've done 15, 20 years. And don't think that there's a statute of limitation, 60 years, 5 years, or after 6 years, they cannot take out. No, they will dig because this country, they says, from the discovery, from the time they came to know that from the date of knowledge of a crime, it is not that what you've done a crime 15, 20 years ago. If the authorities came to know from the date of knowledge of your crime, they can imprison you. They can incarcerate you. They can imprison you. They will charge you. They will indict you. These are serious things, Shivani.
Yes. And I also kind of want to understand what are some measures that the companies and the individuals can take if, to avoid these kind of circumstances, and also the H1B frauds.
The first and foremost thing is what is happening in America. Most of these Desi companies, they will initially have lawyers initially to do the H1s. Later on, they have their own staff sitting in India. These guys will fill up a Department of Labor application. They will do the I-129s. They will do the applications from India. And these companies, instead of spending money on the lawyers, they do on their own. So many times, because they don't understand the law, they're cutting the corners. So in my opinion, they should have some qualified immigration attorneys in their own jurisdiction, those who specialize in business immigration. So they have to get the H1Bs done, or L1s, or any change of status applications, or even labor certifications, or green cards, or citizenships, whatever. They have to go through qualified immigration attorneys. That's the first thing. And second thing is they have to do auditing of their own, because a lot of time there are some firms, they do auditing. Let's say if somebody has filed H1s, they have to get public access files. And let's say you could see a poster behind me, that's called labor poster. This is a compliance. You have to have a posters. As if you're a e-verified company, the immigration says that you have to have a posters in your office. That is the compliance part. They have to do it. And let some lawyers or accountants come and do your auditing, regular auditing of your files. Are you complying the law? Are you maintaining I-9s? Are you maintaining, if you're an e-verified company, are you compliant with the e-verification? So, data cross-checking, are there any employees who are not having visas who are working for you? And, you have to, there are so many compliances, the workforce compliances are there, and Department of Labor compliances are there. They have to have compliances to be, and adhere to the wage requirements. The wages you're giving, it has to be prevailing wage. And LCS, if you're an H1B sponsoring company, your LCS has to be displayed in your office, conspicuous place. And if you're having, sometimes, if you're having a job, if you're saying that you're recruiting the jobs for a green card, you have to have job placements in your premises, conspicuous place. You have to give notices to all your employees. So there are so many things, compliances in terms of corporate law, in terms of taxation law, in terms of Department of Labor, in terms of immigration, in terms of e-verification. There's so many compliances. If they do regularly those cross checks by the employers, because employers are busy doing their business, and they just want to place people, they want to do some development, their HRs are doing their HR work. But if they can do some compliances by hiring some lawyers, there are some law firms, and our firm does that. If anybody get in touch with some qualified law firms, they will do it. Compliances is the key.
Yes. And
To
also,
avoid.
Kaveti Garu, I wanted to kind of know if you would be interested to tell some of the cases that you have personally dealt with the H1Bs, because I'm sure viewers watching the show can take some notes and understand, okay, these kind of cases actually happen.
The first is these days, because our firm is getting a lot of calls that people are on H1B for past 2 years who came on a student visa, and suddenly their H1, they get a letter from the employer and from the immigration that your H1B is revoked. Why? The employer is not sharing that information. They're redacting that and saying, oh, your H1 is being revoked. We don't know why. You just better either go to another employer or change your status or leave the country. I mean, that's the most prominent things now. They don't have to go back. And the employers are saying, oh, there's another company, go and get an H1B. So when they file another H1B, they're saying, oh, your H1 is already being revoked, we can't. So that's another, prevalent things now. Sometimes they're saying employers, oh, your H1 is revoked, so go and change your status to a student status or a visitor visa, or even go back home. So these are the cases which our firm has been getting. And we've been helping some clients for filing T visas, those are victim of crime. And, the other thing is wage claims. And sometimes, not sometimes, many times also these employees, they come on an H1B, they work for 2-3 months and they go and join the clients. or they go and join some other company, we get their salaries. And at that time, the employers also, they have, they can go after the employees, they can file civil lawsuit and injunction. The employees also should not do that. They have to cooperate with the employers. The employers are running business, they're investing money, and you're getting paid because of the employer, the employees are coming. So these things should be curtailed. And the other thing is, these companies, they do multiple shell companies for breaching the law. The companies, they should not do multiple registrations, and don't do it, because when an employer is filing an application, there is an attestation saying, have you or any of your employee filed multiple application? The employer has to attest saying, no, if you have a knowledge, then don't do it. So, because you have to protect yourself from the law, because you're running a business in this country. And you being a US employer, you're supposed to comply the law. If you break the law, you will be punished severely. So these are the things they have to see, and a lot of employers are getting in trouble. Sometimes employees are also getting in trouble doing multiple jobs. They do multiple jobs and they're saying, oh, give us the money in India, give us the money overseas, or deposit in my cousin's account, or use somebody else's social security number, run a payroll on them. These are all unlawful things. They should curtail on that. So there is an onus on the employer and employee. Both have to comply the law. And if they don't, ignorance of law is not excused. Once you break the law, it's a strict liability, no defenses. Strict liability is not there in our Indian context. America says you're strictly liable for the actions you're doing. You cannot say, oh, I don't know that if I do 4 jobs, it's unlawful. No, it's strict liability. So,
Yes.
and even making a fake resume and giving a wrong, they're also, employers are also giving, fake immigration documents, those things.
Yes. And also, Kaveti Garu, I wanted to understand how is these kind of stuff that is happening, these H1B frauds, how are they affecting the genuine H1B people who are actually genuinely doing their jobs, doing something very lawfully? But I'm sure there might be some consequences. So what are something that these genuine H1Bs are bearing?
See, when you do these things, because H1Bs, they take up a lot of jobs of Americans, displacement of American worker, and if the bona fide big companies are not able to hire real professional guys, because these staffing companies and this middleman comes, they commit fraud and they do all of this, they're taking junk of the H1Bs. So the real guys get affected. So it's definitely affecting the real American workforce and market as well. So, what they would do, immigration would do a strict compliance. They will do the audits and site visits, and all these people get arrested. So when they get arrested, it's expensive. And
Of
when you get
course.
arrested, 20 years, it's there on in your criminal history, 20 years.
Yes. And also, do you think the USCIS or the US government is trying to change some laws or regulations or maybe tighten everything up to avoid these kind of H1B frauds?
That will happen definitely, because if you see in this country, every 3-4 years they do compliances and these things they'll come to know, and they will definitely change the regulation. They'll change. This happens quite often. Yeah.
Yes. And also, let's talk for some for companies, Kaveti Garu. We did kind of have a conversation about what someone individually can take. What are some rules and regulations that these companies must be following? As in international lawyer, some inputs that you want to say, especially to the company owners out there.
Well, I mean, they need to have an immigration lawyer, a corporate lawyer, a tax lawyer. They need to consult some professions in this country. And there are certain states have certain different laws. If you see Department of Labor, if you see some corporate law, if you see taxation, every state is on its own systems. The companies has to follow these things, in terms of disclosures to the employees, because employers, they don't know the law, they know how to do business. So because you know how to do business, so you hire an HR guy, you hire a CFOs, you hire a CIOs, you have to hire legal analysts or attorneys, in-house, get things like that, even drafting some contracts or some compliance issues. So if you do all of that, I don't see any problem. So I think that's what they should do.
Yes. And also, Kaveti Garu, I forgot to actually include this point. I wanted to understand what is the role of the third party people. So, let's say there are a lot of consulting agencies out there, a lot of education consultants who are sending people. Do you think they are also majorly involved equally for this H1B frauds?
Yes, because a lot of these education consulting send clients to these companies in America. These staffing companies, they do all of this because they're not into development. They get some human beings. They try to get some jobs with third parties and they place them. And they place them as consultants. They place them sometimes as employees. So there are different types of models. So these staffing companies, yes, they're partially responsible. I don't blame just an employer, Shivani. Even employees are also aware of it. It's not that only employer does it. You cannot force somebody to do a illegal thing. So it has to be corroborated and connive with the employees as well. So they both have knowledge. And if the employer gets in trouble, obviously the employees also get in trouble. You cannot say that, oh, I don't know the law of the land. So I would say both have to comply the law, employees and employers, and even students, and even these consulting companies which they're sending, they have to comply the law. Because a lot of times they make fabricate work experience letters from overseas, fabricate fake educational certificates. Sometimes, a lot of documents that are fake. So it's you are giving a fraudulent documents to the US government. It's a felony. You could go to jail for 10 to 20 years.
Yes, yes. And I think, Kaveti Garu, finally, is there any advice that you want to say to the viewers out there to not to get into these kind of frauds?
Well, our only thing is if they have to get in touch with their lawyers, get in touch with the competent lawyers, those who specialize in business immigration and specialize in Department of Labor laws and corporate laws and everything, because and even taxation, you have to have a good CPA advising you and comply the law, comply the law. That's all I can say. And I mean, your viewers, it's not a legal advice. I'm not against any employers because we get a lot of employers and we get a lot of employees, our firm, and we advise, our firm advises those people. But, the onus is on both the people. And I would say even the media as well. You guys are doing a good job by doing such, shows. People get to see them, employers get to see, employees get to see, and they try to comply the law. I guess everybody has an onus and everybody has a responsibility in this society.
Yes, yes. And I think with that, we will conclude today's show, Kaveti Garu. Thank you so much, Andy, for taking out your time and tuning in. It was such an informational video. Thank you for the viewers for tuning in. You're watching Sakshi TV with me, Shivani Raj.
Thank you, Shivani.